Guys, welcome to today's video where I want to show you how to clean up your underhood wiring. Now, I personally am super intimidated by wiring, so I wanted to figure every bit of this stuff out and share with you guys step by step. This switch panel gives you the ability to run up to 8 different 12-volt powered accessories into one switch panel that can be conveniently mounted on your dashboard. So get ready, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to install a switch panel on your Lexus GX470. Let's go. Okay guys, so obviously my wiring isn't too rat's nest like. I only have 2 of these harnesses connected up to my battery, but I do plan on adding more in the future, and I don't think adding 2, 3, 4, 5 different wiring harnesses to this complete with relays and everything is going to look good at all. It's gonna really start adding up in the future. So Auxbeam sent me their 8-gang switch panel. You can see here it comes with some pretty comprehensive instructions complete with diagrams. Its working voltage is 12 to 24 volts. At 12 volts, the max power rating is 600 watts, and max current, obviously, since it has a 60 amp relay, that will be 60 amps. Operating temperatures are between -25 and +80 Celsius, and it's IP65 waterproof rated. Let's start with my mounting solution. These panels from Ohana Rig Supply are literally the best. I love the ingenuity that they come up with in finding places to mount in Toyotas and Lexuses. For this one, you just pop out that little wood trim piece on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, and this metal piece actually replaces that. You just screw it in right in its place. And as you can see, it fits the contour underneath so that it fits totally flush. It's a really nice piece. I actually got more stuff from Ohana Rig Supply that I'll show in a future video. So let's simplify this by going through each wire one at a time. This wire basically powers the control box. You plug in that side with the plug on the end into the control box, and this other side of the wire taps directly into your fuse box. Now you want to find an accessory fuse. That is a fuse that powers up only when the vehicle is in that number 2 key position, also called accessory mode. So start at your workbench by stripping the wire back and crimping it into that fuse tap that's actually included with this kit, which I was really impressed by. Then get into your fuse box and find your accessory powered fuse. For me, I wanted to go with the seat heater fuse, which is number 24. It is located right here. All you need to do is get a pair of pliers and yank that fuse right out of its home like this. Then you just plug it into the fuse tap, and there you see me pressing it in, and that is in addition to a little 5 amp fuse that comes with it. If you have a 2003 or 2004, you'll notice that giant green relay is in your way. So what I did is use the air conditioning fuse, which I believe is number 21 right there. The only downside to this is that it only works when your AC is powered on. It's totally fine for me in the short term just to test the system out, and in the meantime I have a fuse extension on order. Now you can see I just fed the wire through the bottom of that access port in the control box and plugged it in where there's a space for it. So that takes care of that wire. Next up, we have actually getting 12 volt power from your battery into your control box through your relay, and also grounding your control box to the chassis. For that, you have 2 positive power cables, and you hook those to either side of your 60 amp relay like this. Auxbeam supplies all the hardware needed to hook it up, and it makes things pretty simple as there's kind of a crush washer in there, so you know that the connection is going to be secure. As you can see here, I'm tightening them down and putting the cover back on there. So feed the wire through that bottom access port and hook it up to the positive terminal in the control box. Then the other end goes over to the positive side of the battery. Now it's time to start on grounding your control box to the negative side of your battery or to the chassis. For me, I chose this grounding point that's on the side of the body here. And you need to start by removing your negative battery cable. I should have done this to begin with just to be safe. But anyway, just take this bolt out of the ground point there, and I had to get rid of my other previous ground wires that I had on my lights that are currently installed in the vehicle. Then sandwich the black cable between the bolt and the grounding point, and then cinch it down to where it's snug, and then route it through that bottom access port of the control box just like you did with all the other wires so far and tighten it down in there so that it's secure to the control box. And now you see that I'm just doing a test fit on the cover for the control box. So where we're at now is we have the power going to the control box from the battery and also the accessory power that powers the actual control box. And now we have the final bit of wiring that we need to do, which is simply to plug the actual switch panel into the control box. This is super simple. All you really need to do is go ahead and route that harness wire through that access port underneath the control box and plug it in right next to that small 12-volt power wire. At this point, if your vehicle is on or in accessory mode, you should be able to see the switch panel light up. So now I'm just testing it out, and now it's just time to route that wire through the firewall. I did a video on how to add LED lights to your vehicle. Go ahead and check it out here if you want to know how to get wires through the firewall. It's very simple. In this case, it took me just a minute or two, and then you can feed it through here. I don't know how exactly I'm going to route this for the final assembly, but for now, I'm just going to put it through where the fuse block access port is. So it's not going to look the cleanest, but I'll figure out a way to route it through that steering wheel shroud in the future. Right now, it looks okay. Next, I'm just going to bundle up these wires inside the control box so they're just a little bit more secured, and it makes it easier to fit the lid on top of it. If you've been wondering what that metal bracket that I mounted the control box on, it's actually the air compressor mount from Rego Fabrication. It goes together very simply, and it just seems like since I had it laying around and I'm not getting an onboard air compressor really anytime soon, that this was a good option for me to mount the control box without having to permanently modify the lid of the fuse box or anything like that. So this is kind of how it fits into the engine bay, and it gives you a nice flat, smooth surface with mounting holes for you to mount things like a control box. In the future, when I do get an onboard air compressor, I'll obviously have to find a different solution for the control box, but for now, this solution works just fine, and I'm super happy with how it turned out. It's really clean. It wasn't exactly a direct fit with the mounting holes and everything, but with slight modifications to the mounting tabs on the control box, I was able to get it to work. Now it's time to wire the lights in. And before I start with final assembly, I wanted to explore a question that I had that no one seemed to have the answer to, and that is, say you spent a lot of time routing your original harness from the company that supplied the LED lights. Could you still just use the ends of that harness and keep the relay and everything and have the lights work as normal if you left the supplied switch in the on position? And I'm happy to report that if you spent a lot of time routing your previous harness wiring, you could just lop off the ends of those things, the battery contacts, and put them into your control box and leave the switch on and maybe bury it under the dash somewhere where you won't accidentally switch it off. It'll work just fine for you. Doing this before doing final assembly also gave me some confidence because it gave me a bit of a practice run before doing the final assembly. So here you see me wiring in my ditch lights, my Last Fit ditch lights with their OEM harness that came from Last Fit, and turning the car onto accessory mode. Of course, I had the fuse tapped from the air conditioning at this time before I did the fuse extension, so I had to turn that on. But anyways, you can see here that even with the Last Fit harness in place, it does work. Everything works, and I tested the brightness by looking at the lights and like, oh my gosh, these things are so bright. So the extra wiring and relay didn't really hurt the performance of the lights at all. After doing that test, now it's time to actually cut the harness. So when you get the harness coming out from the lights, you go ahead and just cut off the shroud, cut through your negative and your positive wire. And for this one, I believe there was also a dimmer switch or something like that. I think it's for a daytime running light, so I don't need to use that white wire. But if you want to test out whether your wires are going to work when you put them into the control box, go ahead and just touch those ends of the wires to the batteries and see if the LEDs turn on. If they're hot and they turn on, then you're good to put them into the control box. So to do that, I just routed the power and ground wires as cleanly as I could and tried to get them underneath the control box so that I could cleanly feed them through that bottom access port and into the control box contact points. Now these control box contact points are pretty simple. You just loosen down this connection lug and it kind of comes down, and then you put the wire in between it, and then you kind of cinch up that lug and it squeezes the wire, and then you have your connection. So it's really simple. Now it's time to just get rid of the rest of the harness. You remember when you installed the lights, you routed the wiring through the firewall and mounted your switch inside? Well, now you don't need any of that anymore. This aux beam switch panel really enables you to clean up your interior wiring as well. Now I'm just bundling the excess wiring from the switch panel, and I'm just cutting the end of that zip tie off and just stuffing the excess underneath this Rego fabrication mounting bracket, and then I am putting everything back together. Everything looks so nice. I'm really happy with how this turned out. You know, I'm sure the Switch Pros of the world are better in every way, but man, this definitely gives me all I need in terms of switch panel functionality. It accomplishes the task of making everything wiring clean and puts all of the functions that you're going to be using for the accessories in your vehicle into one convenient location, which I'm super happy about. Guys, if you're interested in this switch panel or any other aux beam products, use my code LORA470, that's LORA 470, for 12% off any aux beam products. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I have a lot more cool videos coming up soon that you won't want to miss. We'll see you in the next one.